Everyone, how's it going? Blind Wolf here once again, and today we are going to talk about distress.
I had to have been about 5 or 6 years old when I went over to my uncle's house and things just kind of got weird.
Okay, not that kind of distress. Distress in fabrics. So you've spent weeks planning your next cosplay, you've spent time, resources, and money putting this thing together. But once that's complete, how do you take it to the next level? That's what I'm going to be discussing in this video. Distressing your costume may be that missing element that will make you go from, oh, hey, that person has a pretty good cosplay, to, holy shit, did that guy just walk out of a video game? Now obviously there's a lot of techniques you can use to distress a costume, and some require pretty expensive tools. But today I'll be focusing on techniques that are household accessible and simply done. So to show you this, I'm going to be using one of my own cosplays as a reference, specifically Ryu from Street Fighter. We'll be covering tattering and fraying, aging and fading color, and adding dirt makeup. So let's get started. Here we have my gi pants that I use for Ryu. We'll begin with tattering the edges of the gi. I start by using fabric scissors to cut jagged looking shapes into the bottom of the pants. Note that these pants were a bit long for my legs, so before I started cutting, I marked with chalk where I wanted the hem to be, so I didn't end up cutting too far up and looking like I was wearing some weird capris or something. Once I finish cutting all the way around each leg hole, the pants begin to look like something out of Street Fighter 3, very anime-like, tattered pants. I could leave them like this if that's the style I'm going for, but I'm trying for something more realistic, so we'll fix that later. I go through the same process with the gi top. Remember that in addition to measuring before you cut, you'll also want to try on your pieces after you cut. In this case, I needed to cut even larger holes to make the top look how I wanted it. Now to go for a more realistic look, I frayed the edges of the fabric around these jagged areas I just cut. I take a serrated knife and tease the fabric along the edges, making sure to do so at all points of the sleeves and footholes. Now I'm not trying to make this pretty, so I kind of do this as ruggedly and haphazardly as possible. Which is also probably why I ended up cutting myself when I was doing this, but just don't do that. Once I have completely frayed each edge, the gi starts to look closer to what I'm going for, but it's not exactly what I want yet. However, the process isn't quite over. We still need to throw it in the dryer to make it look its best, but before we do that, I want to get the color of the fabric a little closer to the shade I want. To make the gi look less of a pristine white, I need to dye it. I could use a very diluted fabric dye that will only add a bit of color, but I found that the best way to do this is actually to use tea. Ordinary black tea works best, although if there's a certain color you're going for, you can throw in other teas that would add a little bit more of that color, like orange tea for a slightly more orange tint. I bring a big pot of water to a full boil, then throw in about 6 to 8 tea bags, depending on how dark I want the shade to be. I lower the heat and let the tea steep in the water for about 15 minutes. After that, I remove the tea bags, keep the heat at its very lowest, and throw in the gi. Now I'm going to keep the gi in the water for about an hour, turning it over with tongs every so often to make sure that no air bubbles form and cause the color to be uneven. You can also use heavy-duty dish gloves when handling the fabric in the pot, which will allow for a bit more dexterity. After about an hour, I take the gi out of the pot using my dish gloves and place it in a large bowl in the sink. I run the gi under cool water and keep wringing it out until the water runs completely clear. When it does, the gi is soaking and I throw it in the dryer for a full cycle. And when it comes out, the pristine white has faded into a shade closer to an eggshell or bone. The tattered sleeves now look like they've been ripped, and the gi has somehow lost a lot of its stiffness. We are now a whole lot closer to that final product. So the gi looks great, but I want it to look like it's been through hell. To accomplish this look, I add dirt. Well, actually, I add makeup to make it look like dirt. I get some brown shadow makeup and lightly dip my brush in it. Then I remove a majority of the makeup from the brush by brushing a paper towel. I don't want too much brown makeup or it'll just look like a mud stain or, well, something else. I then lightly brush the gi, making sure to get the areas around the seams. I go on to use some black makeup as well and a lighter shade of brown to make the colors look a little bit more dynamic. And there we have it. Fully tattered, aged, and dirtied up. Ryu has gone from a completely immaculate rookie to a just traveled through a dust bowl, ate the backfire of a Hadouken, here to knock your bison-looking teeth in badass. Downright fierce. Alright guys, there you have it. Thanks so much for watching my video. If you like this video, make sure to hit like below. If you want to see more videos like this, hit subscribe. And stay tuned for the next one. The next cosplay tutorial I'll be doing is going to be focusing on prosthetic ears. I'll be teaching you guys my techniques on how I make the ears look more like a part of your body and less like they're just a little piece of latex that's, coming off the tip of your ear. If you guys have your own distressing techniques that you really like to use that are very effective, maybe something I didn't cover in this video, make sure you leave it below in the comments so people can read them and, we'll all help each other. We're all here for each other. We're going to help each other out. As always, guys, thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.